podcast. My name is Gabriel Martinez. I am your host. I'm excited to have my guest with me today. He is actually a really good friend of mine, like a brother to me. He's kind of related, but we kind of found this out several years ago. Knew each other since we were kids. Our moms knew each other. Our parents knew each other for a long time. And then years later, our mothers find out that they're actually related when they did a family tree dive in to find out their genealogy line. So I'm really excited to have my guest with me today. He's been a voice of reason, a voice of balance in my life as well, been a blessing to my life. But I'm excited for you guys to hear from him today because he's got a wealth of knowledge. He's got a gift to be able to assess something, look at the situation, assess it, analyze it, and then give logical reasoning, just a voice of balance. So I'm excited for you guys to hear about this and all that he's got to say, all he's got to offer. So if you guys would welcome my guest, Mr. Ryan Langwell. Good to have you on, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you for bringing me on.
Absolutely, man. So tell me about yourself, man. What is it that you do? What's the story of Mr. Ryan?
So I'm born and raised here in San Antonio. Formal education is accounting and finance. I've always been more of a numbers guy, formula and things like that. Worked downtown on the Riverwalk for quite a few years now, tourist industry, and currently I am a corporate trainer. So I go around different locations and train all of our new hires and new marketers.
Absolutely. And even some years ago, too, when I had moved to Texas, going on 6 years now, we had sat down a few times and you had explained some stuff to me about marketing, about funnels, about sales, about just being able to get traffic and lead generation and all of that to my platform, to my page. And so you're great when it comes to marketing and everything. But I think one of the strong points that I've recognized that you had is being able to work with people, being able to train teams and train other folks on how to be sales team leaders and stuff. So what is it that you are working towards now that you are now, you know more about what is it you want to build, you want to do, you want to accomplish, you want to have, you want to achieve? What is it that you are working towards building up right now for yourself?
So I think right now what I'm focusing on is just becoming better as a trainer in and of itself. There's always room for improvement, meeting the audience where you're at, meeting your trainees where they're at, and just becoming more efficient with those guys. And at the same time, working along on the side, becoming more of an entrepreneur and reaching out into that space.
Absolutely. Now, if you can tell us a little bit too about you've been involved in several different industries in investing, and you have experience in multiple industries. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, several years ago, I actually bought a fixer-upper house. I tackled that along with some family members that helped me out along the way. Fixed that up and rehab that. Learned a lot throughout that process. Mm-hmm. There was definitely some days where it was very frustrating, but learned a lot, grew a lot, and sold that, got that out of my hair. I've dabbled into some real estate, obviously there. I've also looked at doing some trading online with like the currencies and different things like that. That's kind of been my focus lately, has just been focusing on that. And then, yeah.
So what would you say was the biggest lesson you learned in real estate investing with your fix and flip?
I would say there's a few lessons there. And one of them is at some point in time, you can read, you can study, you can take all the courses you want. But at some point in time, you just have to bite the bullet and dive, jump out of the bird's nest, however you want to say it, jump off the cliff, whatever it is. Yep. You just have to take that leap. And see it as life lessons. Whatever happens in that journey, just take the lessons and learn from them as best you can, and just go forward.
I absolutely agree because I'm big on taking action, taking risks. That's the best way to learn, best way to discover. But then you find out also too your strength. You find out what you're made of. You find out what you can do when you're like back is up against the wall, or you find yourself with a whole lot more surprises in this flip than you expected. You learn a lot about the business. You learn a lot about resourcefulness. You learn a lot about patience. You learn a lot about budgeting. You learn a lot about do it right the first time. So when it comes to those lessons that you've learned in the world of training, in the world of marketing and training in those areas, training teams, training sales teams, and then also when it comes to how you've invested in real estate and fix and flip and stuff like that, if you could put all of that together, what is a piece of advice that you would give to the up and coming entrepreneur he's ambitious about going into business for himself? He's got the drive. He took the courses. He's read the books. He listens to the podcast, watched the YouTube.
Yeah.
What would you say to the young 21-year-old entrepreneur who's ready to jump?
Yeah. I think a couple of things is, one, do your research, right? You mentioned they've studied the books, taking the courses on that, and that's great. Do your research, of course. Have a mentor if you can find one. There's a lot of different resources online, whether it's YouTube or reaching out to somebody locally with whatever it is. It doesn't matter the business, but just reaching out to somebody, having somebody there. But at the same time, again, you just have to do it. Like you really do. Jumping back to the fix and flipper I remember I was there at the house, I was looking at the property, and it was like do now or it's now or never. And so I literally had this conversation with myself in my mind. Like, bro, you either it's now, sign the check, let's do this now, or be okay sitting on the sideline, but stop talking about it. Like, oh yeah, someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do No.
All right.
Like, are you going to be okay with sitting on the sideline and stop talking about it over and I'm going to do this and that? Or are you just going to dive in and just see it as a learning experience? You just got to dive in. And then whatever happens, the headaches, the budget, mishaps with the budget or whatever, what can I learn from it? You know, whatever happens, the mistakes you make, don't see it as failures, but see them as learning opportunities.
Absolutely.
Some of those are going to hurt more than others, but they're not failures. They're learning opportunities, truly.
So, which leads me to my next question, because I always like to know people's story of how they overcame. You can tell me all of your wins. You can tell me how much you made. And yeah, it may be inspiring. It may be motivating of like, you know, oh, I want to get there too. But truthfully, the underdog, the one that came from poverty, the one that came from having to learn stuff the hard way, they're really not looking for all of the strategies and formulas on how to get rich. Because they can learn that. They took the course on that. They paid the money for that. They went to school for that. They read the book. They tried all of that. They can get all that information. But what were the challenges? What were the biggest frustrations? The scary moments, the lonely moments, the times where it's like, is this even worth it? And then you have to pull it together. You have to find yourself in all of this and realize, I really do want this. It's going to require sacrifice. So, which leads me to tell us your story about what led you to the point that you're at now. Was it the highs, the lows? What brought you to the point of where you're at now, where you're all in? I'm building this for myself because I want to leave something. I want to leave a legacy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, part of it starts off with the comfort zone, like having a willingness to get out of your comfort zone. Like, what are your goals? Who do you want to become? I think that's a big question to ask yourself, is like, not necessarily like, what do I want to do, but who do I want to become?
Exactly.
And sometimes that's going to help lead us the direction we want to go, because if I go this direction, that's going to help me become that person, right? And so for me, my journey started off there. I'm an introvert. I've always been an introvert, you know, but way back in the day, before I started working in getting into the corporate world, recognizing that in myself, that I am an introvert, but wanting to get better with facing rejection, social skills. I always read business books, entrepreneurial books growing up, and they said, hey, get some sales and marketing skills. You don't got to work in sales and marketing, but at least get some skills, because those are really life skills. And then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's a very obviously popular book for entrepreneurs. And chapter 6 is work to learn, not to earn. So I'm thinking about all these things. Plus, I couldn't sit in a cubicle the rest of my life, dude. I'd go crazy. They'd fire me because I fall asleep, or I'd be drinking 20 cups of coffee a day or whatever. And so taking all of these things in consideration, I was like, you know what? Let me look at this corporate world. It's a marketing position, face-to-face marketing position. I'd like to think of worst case scenarios. If I go over here or over there and it doesn't work out, what's the worst case scenario? I go back to do what I'm already doing. You know, am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Then let me just take the leap of faith. So I took the leap of faith. I went into face-to-face marketing, had no idea what I was getting myself into. As far as seeing how weak-minded I was, seeing just all different types of areas, man. And so starting off there, and again, I'm always going to go back to the unknown. Like, you don't know how something's going to turn out till you actually do it and you walk through it. Most people don't. A lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just taking it a day at a time, one step at a time, you know? And so, so I did that. I started working in marketing, face-to-face marketing. No idea the opportunity I was getting myself into as far as like me growing personally with the things I mentioned earlier, my goals and my whys, opportunities to move up into where here I am now. I travel different locations and just help train different marketers at different sites. As far as the journey, that what's got me here, as far as specifically struggles go, man, let me tell you, like, if anybody says they didn't struggle to get where they are today, it's because they're probably still on the couch and they never left the couch, right? And some of the hardest parts is when you're just, it's that day-to-day grind and you are in your own head. And it's that negativity. I talk to my training classes, like, we have to be very careful about that self-talk. If you get caught up in that negative self-talk, it can be a death spiral. And that's something we have to be very careful about on our journey. So working our way through that death spiral, through the self-talk, negative self-talk. The other thing that helped me out to on this journey too is my commitment. I was committed to my whys. You know, getting better with talking to people, facing rejection, learning sales and marketing skills. And if I can make some money along the way, great. But that was really the bottom of it, because I knew that would come. That'd be a fruit as I grew and learned and so forth in that journey. So that's what's really helped to get me where I am today in this journey.
So the thing that I firmly believe is you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to be uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you're going to have to find out stuff in a way where after you've read it, after you've been told about it, now you go experience it, and you even have to fail doing it. Like, you're going to have to fail, and we have to rethink failure. Failure is necessary. It's actually a good thing. People think it's bad. It's a good thing.
Right.
I hear people say all the time, rethink failure. It's not a bad thing. It's necessary. You don't ever fail. You learn, or you try and you win, or you learn. We have all of these ideas about failure, but truthfully, if you look at all of the greats, their whole plan is to fail more, to fail often, and to fail forward, to fail faster. So they look for more failures every day. And then even in the sales world, they look for more rejection and no's and denial to actually reach their goals of a yes, of a closing, of getting on the charts, of upping their sales record. So when it comes to embracing failure, because the price of regret is so much more, how do you personally, but then also encourage other people to really look at failure in a way of, this is good for me, get over the shame, forget about what anybody else thinks or says, their opinions? How do you deal with failure and look at it as a good thing, and I'm going to grow from this?
Yeah, I think part of it is, again, on the front side, doing everything you can to plan, right? To learn to plan going into whatever you're going into. Part of it is recognizing that failure is you are going to make mistakes. Some of them, yeah, that was really dumb. You shouldn't have done that, and you should know them better, right? You got to be able to give yourself grace. You know what? I messed up. Right. That's all on me. Here we go. Other things is just like, hey, I never could have saw that. I never could have saw that coming. Foresaw that coming. And it's just like, but we're here now, and let's figure it out, and let's move forward. So those are big ways to, and then also switching the mindset, like you said, is like, it's not failure. And like, the way I've heard it said is like little kids, right? How many times does a toddler fall to learn to walk? And they don't see that as failure. He's so determined to learn to walk because he sees people around him walking, and he wants to go over there, and he knows that if I walk, it's way faster and all that kind of stuff. So part of it, I think, is just switching that mindset. It's not failure. It's just part of the process.
Right.
And so maybe even changing our verbiage. Verbiage can be very powerful. So let's change that verbiage too. Hey, this is just part of the process.
And to think, like, whoever decided failure is a bad thing? Like, where do we get that from? Where do we get this idea of failure is something to avoid and to run from? Where did the thought come in that if you fail, you're unqualified, you're undeserving, you're behind everybody else, when all of these other folks who don't even try, who just play it safe, who play the comfort zone, who stay in the comfort zone, who don't take risks, who go with the flow of everybody else, do and believe whatever they're told to do and believe. So to break out of that, to be able to change that, to be able to be the difference, be the change for this up and coming generation of entrepreneurs, I think is probably one of the most needed, one of the most in demand, but it's also something I don't think enough is being taught or trained on. Now, I, for one, as a leader, as a one who runs a network, who's been a pastor before, I believe in taking ownership as a leader of everything. If it's good, if it's bad, if it's, okay, that's my fault. I own it. I did that. Where did I fall short in preparing you or providing resources? Where did I miss it?
Yeah.
And how can I do it better next time?
Yeah.
So as a leader, I believe it's a good thing to embrace failure. One, it will actually increase your influence. Because when somebody can see a leader take ownership of something on a level and be transparent and honest, guys, I messed up here. I'm still learning. We're figuring this out. But also, I'm going to give you all a heads up. Hey, we're going to try this. Yeah. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but this is what we're going to try, and this is what the outcome that we're going to go for. And if it doesn't work, we're going to pivot, we're going to adjust, we're going to try it again.
Right.
That's the kind of leader that I want to follow.
Yeah.
That's the one I want to serve. I want to be a part of that vision. I can get behind the transparency and the authenticity of that kind of leader. Yeah. So as a trainer, as a supervisor, as one that has this ability to look at something and assess it, analyze it, and then come up with a logical solution or reasoning on how to view it, perceive it, approach it, and handle it, because you've given me advice about stuff. I've given you a situation. I've told you about a situation, and you've spit back some solutions and some wisdom at me that is like, okay, well, that makes it just sound very simple. Like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So when people are facing their biggest obstacles, when they are facing some of their biggest challenges, can you talk a little bit about just taking ownership, taking responsibility for it? Because it's not a bad thing. You're going to grow from this. So can you advise some of the folks, talk to the folks about how to take ownership, how to be in this posture of, I'm going to own whatever comes my way?
Yeah. And, what's interesting is on the drive over here, I was thinking about that and where our society is at with this victim mentality. I don't want to dive into that too much, but there's definitely victim mentality in our society. I don't know what has helped to promote that in our culture, but it's definitely there.
Yep.
And so, okay, so thinking through this, what's the opposite of victim mentality? And I was thinking, what's self-responsibility, right? It's that taking that ownership onto yourself. Like, whether it's driving on the freeway, right? I got into an accident, and yeah, it may have been his fault, but like, if you could avoid that, why didn't you avoid it? It's called defensive driving, right? Something as simple as that. So part of it is self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And well, as you were talking a while ago, it reminded me of a book that I read by Jocko I forgot his name. I'm gonna stop because I don't want to mess it up too bad. But the title of the book is called Extreme Ownership. And Navy SEALs, he's in the military and Navy SEALs, and having situations that you spoke of where, you know what, this is my plan. I put this together and it was a real mess up. And you know what, guys, that's my fault. That's on me. Man, there's so much there. I mean, I don't want to go too far into a tangent, but as a leader, let's just stop here real quick. As a leader, when you take that responsibility, whether it was your fault or not, whether it was your guy who messed up or your team member that messed up or whatever, when you take that responsibility and you let your other team members see that and you move forward from there, that does so much from your team.
And you as a leader.
Right.
You become a healthy leader.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there too, right? Humble, humility, right? But I think, again, a big thing that it does for the team is it sees your team members as relatable. This dude's just a human too. He's trying to figure out as he goes along the way, whether it's an entrepreneur or whether you're a leader in the military or whatever. Like, none of us have it figured out. And when we can stop pretending that I have this figured out, you know, trying to pretend everybody else that I have it figured out, and just say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning too. I may be a little bit further along my journey than you, but I'm learning too, right? Other people can relate to you, and I don't know. There's just a lot that's created there between leadership and team members. But so jumping back to just failures and so forth, just self-responsibility, taking that ownership, taking that extreme ownership, which is what's spoken of in that book called Extreme Ownership. Again, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend reading it. And then with whatever happens, whether it's your fault or not, just taking that responsibility and learning from it as best you can, communicate to your team and like, okay, this is how we're going to move forward. This is how we're going to avoid this situation in the future. Maybe this is how we could have avoided this situation, but we're here now. We move forward.
You know, for me, I've always, for years and years, I've been in some form of leadership position, but I have always served another leader. Like, there's not been a time or a season where I did not serve a leader somewhere, whether if that was a pastor, if that was a bishop, if that was a boss, if that was somebody who was part of another network in the business world. I've always just wanted to help, wanted to serve, wanted to contribute to others. And the one thing that I found that my trust grew for my leader was when he said, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just that simple words. He's like, you know, I really don't know. And that, like, it allowed me to actually connect with this person more, to be transparent and vulnerable myself and like talk about, you know what? I've been upset about this. I've been dealing with this. I've been frustrated about this, anxious about this. How do I handle this? And so just being able to be honest will help us heal so much in ways and in areas. It'll cause things to be healed we didn't even know we were broken from. And so I think right now, more than ever, because we've been seeing so much about mental health and about, you know, mental healing and, you know, taking sabbaticals and breaks and prioritizing mental health awareness. We've been seeing a ton of this all over the place, and it's going viral. Absolutely. I think it's a great thing. But this thing has been around forever. Right. I mean, it's in Genesis 1. And I believe that if we would normalize being honest about, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what's going to happen. We would get so much farther. We would attract so much more. We would relieve ourselves of so much stress. Our physical health would get better, because a lot of physical conditions or medical conditions are brought on by stress, high blood pressure. The body starts to deteriorate, the organs start to fail, more stress on the body and the heart and everything causes, you know, failure in other areas. So all of that leads to mental illness. And for me, coming where I came from, with dealing with mental stress, and, I've been depressed, anxiety, stuff like that, panic attacks. I've had multiple different times where I've experienced this kind of stuff, to where it just led to extreme burnout. I realized the safety in being honest, vulnerable, and transparent about, I just don't know.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, I need a break. Or I don't want to be strong right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a leader right now.
Right.
I don't want to hold it all together.
Right.
I don't want to check on nobody.
Right.
I don't want to call nobody, see how they're doing. Will somebody just please check on me?
Right. Exactly.
So I think that's something that is, it's really lacking. I don't think we have enough of that. And if we could just really embrace that place of, you know what, I don't know, but we'll find out.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We'll work it out.
Yep.
And ultimately, God gonna work it out. God's got this. He'll make a way. So if you could, in closing in that particular question, how has your faith, your trust in God, because you are rooted, grounded, foundation is firm when it comes to your faith, that's unshakable. So how has your faith brought you to where you're at today? Kept you, brought you, pulled you through, however you want to describe it. How has your faith affected or changed things, or really made a difference in how you do life?
With life, life can throw curveballs your way.
Mm-hmm.
And then come from the middle of nowhere when you don't expect it, and slap you silly over the head, and you have no idea what just hit you. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely been in those moments where, with my faith, it's that anchor mm-hmm. that you can hold on to. I mean, in the middle of the ocean, and life is just beating you over the head when you're on that boat or ship or whatever. Like, you just run back to your faith. Mm-hmm. And whether it's the scriptures or whether it's prayer, or whether it's those who are around you, key people who are around you, you've been an anchor in my life as well, where I've run to you, multiple times. Yeah. And like, bro, let's just talk, man. Yep. I need somebody to talk to. And I think we all know that when we pray, he doesn't always answer us. He's always listening. He doesn't always answer, but he's always listening. But there's times where it's like, no, I need somebody to talk to. I need some feedback. And so you don't need a lot of people around you, mm-hmm. but having some people around you who can be some cornerstones for you and anchors for you, and you just go to them as well. And it's just a combination of those things. Yeah. And again, that doesn't mean you still have it figured out. I mean, God does what he does. He's God. You don't got to answer anybody, mm-hmm. Let alone me. But it's just the trust in him. Yeah. It's the stories that I've read growing up. I'm born and raised in the church. So it's the stories that I've read growing up in his word, combined with the ways I've seen him show up in my life. Mm-hmm. And so putting those together, those are the things that have helped me get through those hard times like that.
Yep. Absolutely. And same for me. We have a similar background. We both grew up in the church, born and raised in it. Both of our dads were pastors in the same denomination, almost the same size of the church as well. But it is. I mean, that's something that you always know this is what we do. Mm-hmm. When stuff gets hard, this is what we do. Yeah. When stuff gets confusing and scary, this is what we do. Yeah. We pray, we trust, we stay consistent, we continue to believe, we press our way through. Yeah. And like how you said, he doesn't always answer us in the way that we want him to, but he always responds. Yeah. Sometimes his response is silence.
Or delayed.
Yeah. But he always responds. And I'm learning, especially recently, that his response is probably something I have focused a whole lot more on being sensitive to. Mm-hmm. Like when I pray about something, I know that he hears me.
Yeah.
The book of John tells us about that anything that you ask for in prayer, we can be sure that he hears us. And so we know he hears us, and we know he's not ignoring us, but to be sensitive and like, well, do I feel peace about moving forward on this? Do I feel like I just wait and be patient? Do I feel like he's going to make a way? Do I feel to take action? Do I feel to do what was the last thing that he told me to do? Do I feel not to do anything and just watch him, be still and know that I am God? Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. So there's so much that I'm learning now about when he's responding, that's how he's talking. It's one of the ways that he's talking. If he responds in silence, think about how you respond to somebody and you just don't say nothing. If you're having a deep conversation and they're bringing up something to you and it's like, bro, man, I've been dealing with this, and I know I wasn't supposed to do this. I know I wasn't supposed to go back to her. I know I wasn't supposed to mess around over it, but I did it anyway, bro, and I just need some help. Can you just talk to me about this? And what do? You just look at them. Because one, they know.
They know.
Two, I mean, it's not really about repeating yourself over and over again right there. Sometimes they just got to talk themselves through it. They got to have somebody to talk through this with. Process it with and everything. Because they get back up. We keep pushing forward. We keep learning from it. And one thing that I teach all the time too, when it comes to becoming successful, I believe that there's three things that I push a lot is vision, culture, and always be a student. Always be in a student posture mode of I'm growing, I'm learning, we're going to figure this out together. Yeah. And by a student, I don't just mean always just studying. That's part of it. But the humility of a student, the servant's heart of a student, the awareness of a student. When a student goes to class, they're in the mode and in the posture of I'm here to learn. Yeah. I'm here to receive. Right. I'm here to figure something out. I'm here to go deeper with, my journey. I showed up for that very reason. Right. But there's a lot of folks that say, well, I'm always learning, but are completely unaware of themselves. The self-awareness is just not there. And you can tell I'm here for myself. I'm not here to learn. I'm here for myself. I'm here for, what can I get out of this? What can this person, this group, this community, this network, this job, this organization, what can they do for me? Yeah. How can they get me to my goal faster instead of how can I serve you? Yeah. How can I learn from you? How can I receive from you? This is something I found that's healthy, it's pure. I want to be a part of it. I want to learn from it. So that's one thing I always push is always be a student. And it'll up your self-awareness in ways where, nobody else can teach you that. Right. So absolutely. Excellent. Well, I've been loving this. And in closing, man, because now you know what your journey is about, you know what you're working towards, which way you're headed, what your passion is, and you know where life has brought you to. How are you using that to help other people? Help the others that are coming up behind you, whether if that's in the business world, if that's in the leadership space, if that is in coaching or in training. How are you using this journey to provide value for an audience?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of some things that I shared earlier is whoever this audience is, my audience who's in front of me, is just being as relatable to them as possible. You're not the only one who's gone through this journey. I've gone through it too. This has been some of my experiences. You may or may not have these thoughts that I've had. You may or may not have these mental blocks that I have, but this is what I experienced. And just having that conversation with them, kind of managing expectations. Part of my job as a trainer is managing expectations. And just letting them know, like, hey, like there's going to be some really tough days ahead of you. Just know that from the get-go. Everybody experiences that. Don't compare yourself to other people. I think that's a big one. I actually talked about that today in one of my training classes. Is you cannot compare yourself to other people who are around you. Like you talk about a death spiral.
Come on,
man. That is a death spiral that can end you extremely quickly. Are there things we could be doing better on our journey? Yeah, I'm sure there is. Could you run a little bit faster? Probably. Et cetera, et cetera. But don't compare yourself to other people, and just keep going.
Absolutely. I totally believe what you just said there. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's become an epidemic of...
It's social media, right? It's all over.
It's social media. It's even a lot of times like we're raised like it.
Yeah.
Well, your other brother isn't like this.
Oh, yeah.
Your sister, like...
Oh, here we go.
It's become so common, that's the go-to, where not only are we comparing ourselves to other people, but we're being compared to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then we take it into relationships. The last girl wasn't like this. My last relationship didn't do it. And so all of this comparison, we're striking a nerve here.
Here we go.
Yeah, but it's become so common it's been normalized to compare. And instead of actually identifying and discovering me, who am I? And then taking ownership of that, the only thing we've had to scale, gauge, or base self-worth or value off of is somebody else. Because it's like we've lost our identity to what the world's standards and expectations and molds and boxes are, that now it's become so normal to, well, I want to be like that person. Yeah. I want to, when I grow up, I want to be like, stop all of that. Who are you? Who did God create you to be? Yeah. Where is your identity? Now, I know, and I'm going to probably ruffle some feathers on this one, but that's okay. You're welcome. I hear all the time, find your why. Start with your why. Find a good, solid why. And I believe in a why. I believe a why is great, but what's better is who. Yeah. Find your who, so therefore you can just flow in your why. So that your why is a whole lot more clear, because your why can change. Yeah. Seasons change, times change, obstacles change, life changes. If there's anything we can be certain of, it's change.
Right.
But if our identity remains, our identity in Christ, our identity in the Father, and us being a beloved Son in whom He's well pleased, if that is solid, if that is secure, then our why, it becomes a whole lot easier and fulfilling. Because if it's only about our why, if it's only about me finding my why, I'll discover my why and it'll never be enough. I'll pick a why and it'll never be enough. I'll burn out because, there's got to be more. Well, I've reached all those levels. I've accomplished all of that, and it's still not enough. There's still a void. As long as my identity is skewered and interrupted by something else, and as long as I just have my why in front of me, there's unfulfillment, there's a void, there's a lack, there's a dead spot. And it can never be satisfied with how much I pursue my why. I have to know my who. Yeah. So in closing, tell the folks, leave them with a solid piece of advice that you're applying, something that you do maybe like a daily practice or a daily discipline, because we all know good habits, discipline, and consistency is going to get you farther than motivation will. So, because motivation can wear off. You're not going to have it every day. But leave the folks with something, a motivational tip or a good discipline tip, and we will wrap it up.
Yeah. So I think a couple of things is good habits. Because the good habits are going to help take you a long ways, and then consistency, combined with consistency, goes a long ways. I think a great question to ask yourself is, who do I want to become? And that can go a long ways in helping you with your journey and where you're going. And taking some from our conversation here is like, what am I committed to? Who am I becoming, or who do I want to be? And that's going to help you along your journey, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's corporate world, or this or that. it's going to help you go a long ways there.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely, guys. Well, appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you, man, for being a guest on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
And, man, it's been a joy. It's been a privilege. And, guys, I am encouraging all of y'all to go back and watch this, share it with somebody if it's blessed you, encouraged you, inspired you, enlightened you in some way, shape, or form. Thank y'all for watching, but hit that subscribe button and then that notification bell so that you can get all the notifications when we have new podcasts that are loaded, new videos that are loaded. If you would, share this page with somebody so they can be inspired as well. Also, all of our links, our information is all in the description below. So I want to connect with y'all. I want to stay in touch with y'all. And we have a community as well. If you're looking to join a community of leaders and entrepreneurs, hence leaderpreneur, if y'all are looking to join a community of folks that are real, transparent, honest, and building and encouraging and investing in one another, then I encourage you to check out Technon Global. It's a network that meets once a week, but we're all about building each other, investing, supporting, celebrating, and honoring one another so that we can discover and become the greatest version of ourselves, but also to understand our identity in Christ as well, so that therefore, whatever we do, we can do it with excellence and become successful. So love y'all, fam. Remember, hit subscribe and that notification bell so you can get all the notifications for all the new videos. Once again, Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show today. This is the Leaderpreneur Podcast. I'm Gabriel Martinez. Until next time, love y'all, fam.